Where I live here in Saskatchewan, it is officially the coldest place on planet Earth this morning, being minus 41 Celsius, which is also the point where Fahrenheit meets it at minus 41 Fahrenheit. I'll be putting my 2024 Tesla Model 3 Long Range All-Wheel Drive to the test, taking it on my regular round trip to work, which is 67 kilometers or 42 miles, parking it for 8 hours during the day, and then driving it home, and just doing an overall efficiency test to see what it's actually capable of. A unique twist on this video is I'll be starting in the garage and doing a normal precondition, but I will be plugging in the car while I'm at work all day for 8 hours to see, will I even gain anything? Will I lose charge? Will it just keep the battery warm? What will it do? Will the charger even do anything? Will it break? Will it function? We're going to find all that out here today, and then I'm going to drive home after that and just see what happened. And then, of course, give the final thoughts and breakdown and the final stats of what the charger did at work as well. My goal today is to try to beat the results on my minus 30 test, where everything will be tested the same as on that video, other than I'm going to be plugging it in, whereas in that video, I did not plug it in and I just let the car sit in the freezing cold all day. If I can beat the results from that video, where it's 11 Celsius warmer throughout the day, then I think that proves that plugging it in at work in the winter is totally worth it if you have a mobile charger and somewhere to plug it in. But we're going to find that out soon, so join me now in the morning where I begin the test. All right, guys, well, welcome to the actual coldest day of the year here. We are blowing out my minus 30 day, of course. Look at the temps here this morning. 8:13 in the morning, currently sitting at minus 41 degrees Celsius. That is actually minus 42 Fahrenheit. We are at the turnover point. So that is absolutely insane. Throughout the day, it's going to be cold, but I mean, relatively, that's going to look nice and warm. When I drive home, it's going to be about only minus 28 Celsius. And then throughout the week, this is the even dumber part, the weirder part. Look at this. Plus temps by end of the week and by next week. Like, what in the world is going on here? Finally, after about 2 weeks, it's super cold here, though it's getting warm. But that being said, that gives us a pretty good opportunity to do a really good efficiency test here today. Leaving at minus 40, leaving the car parked outside all day. The catch today is going to be, I'm going to use a level 1 charger at work. Since this is the coldest day possible, I'm going to see if I gain anything at all, or if my battery just maintains, if it stays at plus 10 degrees, which is what it seems to want to do. Which, by the way, I would be thrilled if it stays at plus 10, because that means my battery's not going to be minus 15 or whatever it is by the end of the day. And we'll see how my efficiency goes. I think a really good test, once again, going back to the minus 30 day, is going back to that day where I used 31%. In exactly the same scenario as this. However, I did not plug it in that day, and today I will be plugging it in. So my goal today is going to be to beat 31% used here on my regular round trip of 67 kilometers or 42 miles with an 8-hour gap in the middle where I'm at work and my car is sitting outside. Conditions for starting is I will be at 76%. So the percent to beat is 45%. I want to get home with more than 45%. And the car thinks I will use 12% to get to work. So that's a pretty good start, considering I shouldn't use anything while idle at work. But yeah, hope for the best here. I think 12% would be extremely fantastic for 32 kilometers. I'm more projecting we're going to use 14%, so we'll see how this holds up. Also very cool, in not that much time, it was probably about half an hour, my battery went from minus 5 Celsius all the way up to plus 8. So that is actually a pretty fantastic result for about 30 minutes, and that's all plugged into the wall. My percent did go down, my charge was set to 80. However, the car sat for a day and a half and didn't charge, so it was closer to 78 or 79 with some of the battery frozen out. And then I did end up using a little more here this morning. It's a foggy one out here today. I wonder if it's just because it's so cold that the fog is taking over, but yeah, it's a foggy one, folks. And like I always do on my tests like this, I'm setting the cabin to 20 degrees or 68 Fahrenheit just to keep everything fair. And for me, that is a comfortable temperature no matter how cold it is outside. And because I'm not going fast, I'm setting it to chill mode in case that helps anything. I always do this on my colder tests anyway, so yeah, we're going to be on chill mode. Can't really see a ton, but the sky is kind of a cool color, so it's not that bad of a morning. This is what the Arctic prairies look like on a minus 40 morning. Kind of cool, I guess. It is cool when you think about how cold it is. And kind of cool, we actually do have regen in the morning, thanks to me preconditioning the car for about 30 minutes today. So that's something neat, we'll take that. Even going into the minus 40, we'll see if that continues by the end of the drive though. And as always with my tests, I'm going to be going 114 kilometers an hour, which is 70 miles an hour, just to keep that really good consistency throughout my testing videos. And I will, of course, be updating my spreadsheet at the end of this video. That's going to add some really good detail to the currently handful. I think there's going to be 3 videos on there with the current spreadsheet of my 67 kilometer loop to work. This is going to be a unique one, and I'll make sure to include notes like I level 1 charge during the day here, starting temperature minus 41 Celsius, It's going to be really cool to build that spreadsheet up and get a whole bunch of data on the different types of scenarios that you might encounter while living somewhere like here in Saskatchewan, or just in general what you can expect in a worst case scenario in various temperatures. I definitely plan to do this in warmer temps too, like minus 20 Celsius, minus 10, 0. I plan to kind of just do it all just to get a really good baseline what this car uses on various round trips. So that's going to be really fun to get that updated and get a decent sized catalog of testing going through here. Now I do have to say my ears are kind of chilly right now. I think it's because of the glass roof. If you guys live somewhere really cold, you'll know what I mean, but you can feel the cold coming through the glass. Like it's a weird one. And yeah, I can feel it. It's like a draft almost. It's so strange. But yeah, my ears are chilly. My legs are warm, my arms are warm, my whole body's warm, just my ears are a little bit cool. So normally I think I probably would be turning this up, but I'm still fully comfortable and I gotta keep the test equal at my 20-degree testing temperature. So not gonna do that, but just kind of saying I think I would be if I wasn't doing a test, because why not, right? I'm not concerned about range. And this is actually going pretty fantastic. I'm about halfway there and still bang on with the projection of 64%. So that's, that's a pretty good start. Current drive, however, this isn't great. We are at 298 watt hours per kilometer. That is brutal for being halfway in, especially since I preconditioned for 30 minutes and got my battery up to 8 Celsius. So that's bad, but we'll see how this goes. I hope this gets a lot better really quickly. As for the car, totally fine. No frost or anything on the windows. This one was a teeny tiny bit of frost, but really there's nothing going on in the car. It's just, it's keeping it defrosted. It's keeping it nice and chill. And the fog's getting crazy bad here. We're about to be entering the city, and yeah, the fog is really thick. I can't see anything, and normally I can see all kinds of cars and all kinds of buildings and traffic, so this is interesting. And do I still have regen at the end of my highway portion? Yeah, lots. So after the battery had about 15 minutes to freeze on the highway, I still have, full regen. Look at that. I'm pretty much letting all the way off now. Still full regen, so that's cool. That preconditioning really made a humongous difference in terms of that here today too. And just a few minutes later, I'm already up to 273 watt hours per kilometer. So that got a lot better really quickly. And my projection, now we're about 2/3 done, still at 64%. So 12% overall projection is seeming to be accurate, which isn't too bad considering I use about today, 8 or 9 or 10% on a nice day, but I haven't even had the car in the summer, so I'm really curious to see what I'll do in the summer. And one note I'll throw in is I'm on my winter tires on my 18-inch Art Replica 267 wheels on Hankook winter tires. I will be for the rest of my videos, but in case it's your first time tuning in, I'm on winter tires, and that's a question I got a lot when I missed it the one time. The car is doing absolutely perfect. There's no rattles, no weird noises, no weird performance. Now that I'm in the city, it's actually a little bit warmer since there's less cold air hitting me. It doesn't seem like it's minus 40 out there for me right now, so I'll take it. All right, well, made it to work and absolutely zero dramas. Right towards the end, it got me to 63%. So overall, that is a 13% usage on this portion of the drive. And I totaled out to 277 watt hours per kilometer. Not good, folks. That is exactly double the EPA rated range. But we'll see how it goes on the way back. It's going to be a little bit warmer, I guess, so we'll see if that actually helps, and we'll see if having the car plugged in helps. I'm going to do a 10-minute precondition after work, just like I did on the minus 30 test, so I'll be keeping that fair, and I do that on pretty much all my tests that are going to be in the spreadsheet, so it's always going to be a 10-minute precondition after work on those ones. And of course, the energy graph. So 12.9% consumed, 0.8 more than projected. Yep, that exactly adds up with what I observed, and we can see driving 10% even, climate 2.7%, nothing too crazy on this, and only a couple 0.1s here, so nothing really to discuss on that side of things. All right, well, for now, time to leave the car, but first, I'm gonna plug it in, and then I'll do a couple check-ins and voice them over throughout the day, and we'll see how this goes. Battery temp leaving the car is at 10 degrees, so pretty much it just kind of maintained that 10 degrees the entire time, and this should be enough to take a charge. However, I think it's gonna pretty much immediately cool down and wanna start heating the battery, so we'll keep an eye on that. I think that I'm gonna end up with 64% at the end of the day. I think we're going to gain 1, and otherwise just keep a nice warm battery. And before I go in, I just want to mention I'm actually at 62% now. So I used 1% in the 5 minutes or so that I've been idle and filming and just getting stuff ready. So we used 14% to get here plus idle for a couple minutes. So the projection was, 1, maybe 2 off. It was really close, but we'll have to call it 14%. So here in the Tessie app, we can see that after about 1 hour, I still have 63 true percent, but 62 that is usable, and that's what the car would be displaying. So after an hour, pretty much nothing has happened. It's just been trying to keep the battery warm. And now about 3 hours later, I've actually gone down 1% somehow. I am charging this entire time. I'm not sure how this is happening, whether it's digging into the car's actual power to help compensate, heating those batteries up along with the 110 volt. But regardless, yeah, I've gone down a percentage actually. Maybe it's from waking the car up. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I am a little bit surprised to see the battery's gone down. And here in the Sexy app, you can see that, yeah, the battery is at about 11.8 degrees, 11.5 degrees on the right-hand side, but I am drawing about 0.3 kilowatts. So yeah, I am draining even while I'm plugged in. It's just not quite doing enough to keep it at this on its own with the 110. So it's digging ever so slightly into the car's battery charge. So that is kind of interesting to see too. And now still at the same time, it's about minus 31 Celsius or minus 24 Fahrenheit. So yeah, it's gotten quite a bit warmer in the 3 hours since the morning, but obviously that's all relative, right? Because this is still extremely ultra cold, but that's what we're dealing with at the moment. All right, so now about 6 hours into the day here, I'm in the stock Tesla app. We can see I've got about 61%. It's probably 62, just showing 61. But most importantly, at the bottom, you can see it's 17 degrees Celsius. I have not had the climate on at all today. This is all just from the car greenhousing it with the glass roof and all the glass windows and such, of course. And it's just maintaining all that cabin heat. I'm really shocked at how well it's doing, but yeah, it's plus 17 inside there while it's minus 31 outside. And here we are at the end of the day. Car's fine. It's nice and warm. I only started it like 8 minutes ago. Maybe not even, maybe like 6 or 7. I just turned it on a few minutes, packed up, and off I went. But yeah, here's where the car's at. 61%. And yes, it was charging for the entire day. As you saw in the results, it was keeping the battery warm at like plus 11, but that's pretty brutal considering I parked it at 62 and had it plugged in all day and charging. And I will insert the Tessie charging graph right now. So this is some pretty crazy data. You can see I plugged in with 63% at 8:48 a.m. I am now at 62% at 5:12 p.m. So the full day of work, and I have gone down 1%. If you look at the very bottom, you can see I actually added negative 0.76 kilowatt hour. But I used 11.31, so that means I drew 11.31 kilowatt hour from the actual plug, which is an efficiency of negative 7%. That's because I didn't go up anything, right? So normally you expect that to be like in the 90s or mid 90s percentages when you're charging on a level 2. Here I literally lost some because it was so cold. It was doing what it could. It kept the battery warm. But I think the preconditioning being on that really drew from the battery as well, since the preconditioning is not enough to do it straight from the charger. But yeah, this is a pretty wild result, and I actually lost some throughout the day while plugged in. I mean, that's not great, obviously, but my car is warm and I lost no charge and I preconditioned and I kept the battery nice and warm. As we can see here, checking on the Sexy knob from Enhance Auto, I'm going to have a link to this and all their products in the description. Battery is at 11 degrees Celsius, so the battery is nice and warm considering I spent nothing to precondition it. That's at least a nice plus. And I think this also does speak volumes about the EV Dance mobile charger that I used all day today. If it can handle being plugged in initially at minus 40, work all day and run at the full 1 kilowatt all day long, I mean, what's it not going to work in, right? And yeah, it held up the entire day. So if you want to check that thing out, I also have that thing linked in the description on Amazon and also their website. As yeah, it's half the price of the official Tesla charger, but it does just as much. And it's a really good mobile one that you can just kind of throw in your car. So I recommend that thing too. That's the one I'm using and I'm really glad they sent it out to me. But yeah, so starting from 61%, let's see what it thinks I'll get home with. It is projecting I will get home with 49. So again, it's projecting about 12% usage. If I do get home with 49%, that will mean I used a total of 27% charge here today. So that would be quite a bit less than my minus 30 test, and it was much colder today. So that would actually be a pretty good victory in my opinion, but we'll see. It always ends up being a few off on the really cold days. So let's just see what happens here. And of course, the initial regen test rate when I start going, let's see if I've got it. Yeah, full regen. Full regen rate when I leave on a day like this is obviously something I would never have if I wasn't plugged in. So there's another small plus. I mean, yeah, it's only adding like half a kilowatt hour by the time I get home, and that's all it's really doing. But really, isn't that still something? Plus the battery is still at a warmer, healthier temperature. I would still say I call that a victory. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have regen, so that means my one pedal driving is gonna be more effective and I'm not gonna use my brakes. So that's nice too. And now I'm hoping my Sins charge number will manage to beat the morning one. I think it will, because I started from being parked outside but plugged in and actively charging versus a precondition in a garage. So I'm wondering what the difference in this will be, but let's find out. I just want to beat that 270 number. I would love to see it, but we'll see. And I should do a lot better considering it is only minus 27 degrees Celsius now, which is about minus 17 Fahrenheit. Way warmer than this morning, right? But jokes aside, I do believe I will do a little better than this morning since, yeah, I was plugged in. And realistically, I mean, minus 27 is still brutal, but it's 14 degrees warmer than this morning, so I still expect to do a little bit better. It's nice that there's no wind either direction here today. That's going to make a bit of a difference. And yeah, usually driving home, there's more wind, but today, you know, it doesn't feel that cold out because of the wind. The wind makes such a difference. It's crazy. And I'm seeing something I hardly believe here, folks. Done most of my freeway portion, and I am sitting at 50%. That's 1% more than I was actually projected, so I can hardly believe it. That almost never happens, especially when it's this cold. And even more surprisingly, that's raised my estimation to only 11% used. That's a pretty normal percentage even on a warmer day, so that is absolutely shocking, but I will take it. But I guess we'll see how the car handles the highway now, won't we, since I'm about to hit the highway for about 24 kilometers worth of driving. But yeah, I mean, a quarter of the way home and I gained 1 projected percent, so I'll take it. And so just beginning my bit on the highway here, and 255 watt hours per kilometer is my starting number. Already better than this morning, so we'll see if this holds up or if it gets worse as we're on the highway. But yeah, it's getting a little worse already, so we'll see. But that could just be the initial speed up. And of course, I'm doing my standard 114 kilometers per hour, which is 70 miles an hour whenever I do these tests. Halfway done the trip and still showing 50%. This is about to be a record-setting trip where instead of just losing that 1% right at the last second, we might actually either beat it by 1 or at least get the percent that it initially projected, being that 49. Either way, this is going to be a pretty big victory to get home with only 11% used. I would take it. One more cool feature about Sexy Knob is it comes with these 4 buttons you can program to do whatever you want. So if I press this one, it does my autopilot, and then if I twist this dial, it affects my speed. So as I twist the dial, it'll change the speed that I set my max to. So, you know, to me, it's not a big deal, obviously, but I kind of like doing that instead of always using the little scrolly wheel if I have my hand just kind of resting like this while I'm in FSD. So I think it's a pretty cool little feature, just one of the many features that the Sexy Knob can do. I've got a link in the description to their site with their products, and they've given me a 10% off code for all of you guys if you end up buying them. I don't think you're going to find a single negative comment about the Sexy products from anybody who has them. They're a really cool product, and I was ready to spend my own money on them if Enhance Auto wasn't going to send them out to me. Lucky for me that they're happy to support small creators, and so they sent them out to me, but I'm going to happily recommend these to people because they are awesome, and I was ready to drop the money myself. Well, I'm still at 51%, and I've only got 2.5 kilometers to go, so I'm easily going to hit the 50%. This is pretty shocking. I'm only going to use 11%. All right, and I have made it home, and that was a wildly smooth drive. There was literally no traffic, so that definitely played a plus. I spent like 5 minutes less idling than normal, maybe more than 5. Like, that was a rapid trip, but here's how the car did. Made it home with 50%, so I beat the projection by 1. I only used 11% for the drive home. I am very pleased with that. That means I only used 26% overall. And if you remember the day when it was only minus 30, I used 31%. So I just saved 5% overall, and it was minus 40, minus 41 even. And so what this tells me is plugging into the level 1 made a humongous difference, especially because I preconditioned for roughly the same amount of time at the end of the day, basically 10 minutes. But keeping the battery warm helps the car to just drive me home so much more efficiently is what I've been gathering here. And there is the efficiency stats. So 234 watt hours per kilometer. Yeah, only a 30-minute drive, so that was a quick drive home. Normally it takes like 35 or 37, and yeah, 33 kilometers. So that was really efficient. Compared to this morning, at least, 234 is still bad, but when you compare it to about 270, quite a bit better. It's like 15% better. And I left from an insulated garage this morning where it was only about minus 13 Celsius versus being parked outside all day and minus 41 down to about 27. Either way, it was not warm throughout the day. And the drive stats, so 10.9% consumed, 1.2% less than projections. So this lines exactly up with what I was looking at there on the screen. And yeah, we can see driving somehow used 10.4%, and that was more than expected. Go figure. It's saying climate used 0.1 and saved me 2%. Again, I'm not exactly sure the science behind how this is calculated because sometimes it seems bang on, sometimes not. Maybe it has to do with being plugged in and keeping the battery warm, and then the heat pump just is basically doing nothing at that point since there's no waste heat being generated. I'm not sure, but I'll take it regardless. And again, pretty much nothing here. My tire pressure is not low, and yeah, I went 114, so this is all as expected. So what does this all mean? I kind of doubt I'm going to get much hate on this one, considering Saskatchewan was the coldest place on planet Earth last night. I'll put an article up on screen here, and the car drove me to work. I plugged it in at work, and it was still minus 40 in the morning, mind you, when I did all this, the coldest place on Earth, and it just did 26% for a 67 kilometer or 42 mile round trip. Put that in perspective, I can do that numerous times today. I could drive back to the city and back home. Now, I'd still have enough to go back and forth, maybe one more time. That would be getting dicey with 50%, but I only started with 76. Like, I'm not sitting here worried about going to 100% because it's not necessary. I don't need that 800 kilometer range or 1,000 kilometer diesel tank range that sometimes I get comments about, some people say how their car can go 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles and mine can only do 280 on a full battery versus the rated range of like 550. But my response to that would be, I just use 26% for a full day of work. Even if I go out and do something in the evening, I'm still going to have plenty of charge left over, and then I'm going to plug it in and get it all back in like 5 or 6 or 7 hours. It does not matter. I just have a full battery every day, so this doesn't matter, even on the coldest days, mind you. And so I think that speaks volumes to how electric cars are ready if you're ready. If you have a 240 volt plug in your garage, and if you can plug in at work, like these things are super ready. Now I understand that I have a privileged situation with an insulated garage, a 240 plug that came with the house. I just happen to have it because the previous guy was a welder. And then I can plug in at work all day on the block heater plugs. It's one of those situations where I'm blessed with that, but lots of people have the same situation as me. And if you are, then you should probably consider a Tesla. I'm going to have my referral link in the description for you to click on and check out what your discount would be. It varies place to place, but usually it's about $1,000 USD. 1,300 Canadian. Sometimes it's like 2,500 depending on the model. Either way, check it out and see what a Tesla would end up costing for you. But now, final conclusions. I'm going to put the graph up on screen here of my round trip tests and add this one to the mix and see how it compares to the others. I think plugging in at work makes a pretty huge difference, and I think the results will speak for themselves as you're seeing up on screen here. But all that being said, it's time to plug the car in, and I'll just have a full battery again tomorrow and never freeze my hands off at the gas station. If you stayed till the end of the video, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you like the video, and leave a comment on if you're impressed, not impressed. Do you think there's more room to go? Do you think Teslas have more progress to make before they're good, or EVs in general? Let me know. I'm super curious to hear what you have to say. But all that being said, thanks for tuning in to another Frozen Tesla video, and I'll see you on the next one.